The topic of the next session is the power of the unknown. I invite Shankar Iyer, Managing Editor, India Today, to kindly escort and welcome our chief guest for this session, Dr. Nassim Taleb, philosopher and expert on risk, and someone who is credited with predicting the global economic recession. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for our next guest, Dr. Nassim Taleb. Kindly come on the stage. Shankar Iyer, Managing Editor, India Today, would be chairing this session.
Good afternoon. The Lord of Probability finds the lights in the hall too strong, so can we dim it a bit, please? So he can see better and tell us what lies ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to an exciting session. I say exciting because none of us know about it, because we're going to talk about the power of the unknown. What do we know? Do we know enough? Most importantly, do we know what we don't know? The commission that looked at the 9/11 terror attacks on New York said, across the government there were failures of imagination, policy, capabilities, and management. In September 2008, when the Wall Street crashed, we wondered, did the regulators of banks across the world and the governments also fail to imagine the meltdown? But Nassim says the financial crisis was unavoidable. So what's a black swan? What is that one quality or ability that we must inculcate to enable us to know the unknown? Is it a science? More importantly, is it what we call a science? Knowing the unknown isn't just a mathematical analysis of facts and factors either. For centuries, human beings have aspired to bridge the gulf between what we know and what we don't know. In any volatile situation, the crucial, rather the critical difference, it seems, is what we know or what we didn't know. As the world swirls around crisis and seems to get worse in terms of the unpredictability, the bigger difference, it seems, is whether we know what we don't know. How do we know the unknown? And what, Nassim, is the next black swan? If anyone does know, if anyone does understand this, it is probably Nassim Taleb. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together to welcome one of the greatest philosophers and writers. Nassim Taleb is a scholar of risk and randomness, a writer of philosophical tales and derivatives trader. His hobby is to tease people who take themselves and their knowledge too seriously. Author of The Black Swan and Fooled by Randomness, Taleb has been among the most quoted persons since the financial meltdown. He describes himself rather well, rather humbly, as someone interested in how to live in a world we don't understand very well. Early in life, Taleb got interested in how to turn lack of information, lack of understanding, and lack of knowledge into decisions. How not to be a turkey. And the difference between knowledge levels has given people Nobel Prizes and made millions for people. An MBA from Wharton and a PhD from University of Paris, Taleb is acknowledged as one of the experts in derivative trading and was inducted in the Derivatives Strategy Hall of Fame in 2001. He is also a distinguished professor of risk engineering. Mr. Rahul Bajaj, that's one area that Indian corporate sector probably will have to look as we grow. He is a distinguished research scholar at Oxford University among a host of other academic responsibilities. He is also working with Dan Goldstein on the Ecological Uncertainty Project. and is running what he calls a family of experiments on the intuition of randomness. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Nassim Nicholas Taleb, the virtual god of probability.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm extremely honored to be here. I have a lot of Indian, I get a lot of mail from India, so finally I'm here to discuss things. Please, can you lower the lights? It looks like the French police interrogation where they make you say the truth, but I'm going to say, I'm going to tell you what I think, so you don't need so much. Great. So I'm a little fed up with the black swan. I'm tired of the black swan after 3.5 years. You understand. Blackbird. So I'm going to try to talk about what I've been doing since the black swan. Vastly more interesting to me, maybe not to you, but But you have to promise me not to tell Penguin, my publisher, because I'm publishing 100 pages addition to the black swan called Unrobustness and Fragility. I'm supposedly not supposed to talk about it before pub date in May. So please don't tell them. They got upset with me. I got a phone call and stuff. So I'm going to talk about that and also about some other things I've been working on as a follow-up to the Black Swan, something I call Tinkering. A book is called Tinkering, Bottom-Up Knowledge, How to Live in a World We Don't Understand. It's a very simple book, except that the simplicity of the title and the idea makes it very complicated to write. Usually it's the other way. So let me start now by making you feel a little uncomfortable, just a little bit, and then things will get better as we go along, okay? Do you recognize this object there? No? It's something commonly known as a wheel. No? It was discovered not far from... I'm from Lebanon, halfway between Lebanon and here somewhere in Babylon, okay? So, it's a very good invention, no? But between, say, 4,000 and 6,500 years ago, it was discovered. Can someone explain to me why it took so long for this implementation of the wheel? It was staring at us, this thing was staring at us for 6,000 years. Okay? And I don't know if you, I'm extremely old for a trader. I'm a trader also. You didn't mention it too much. So for a trader, I'm very old. Maybe for a philosopher, I'm very young, but or not even dead, But so I remember the days when I used to fly to JFK from Lebanon with suitcases, and you don't want to spend the money on a porter, so you'd have to carry all these suitcases, and they have very long hallways. All it took is this contraption, the wheel. So you see how much technology is not necessarily looking, and it can stare at you for a long time. But things are actually worse. Do you recognize this object, the pyramids, the Mexican pyramids, about, an hour outside Mexico City? And supposedly, the Mesoamericans did not have the wheel. They built this using slave labor. You give them corn. Okay, you whip them, and you make them lift stones. Okay, so they did not have wheelbarrow. Is it true they did not have the wheel? Well, they did have it. They just used it on toys, children's toys. They didn't make the leap that you could, make a wheelbarrow. They're rolling, on stucco floors. They had stucco floors. All right, little toys, and then they had the wheel, so they didn't realize, and it would have saved them, hundreds of millions of calories every day, okay, if they had, that simple implementation. So, just to tell you how hard it is to predict which technology is going to dominate. Actually, things are going to get a little worse. And then, I'll tell you, it will get better. Do you recognize the gentleman here? He was an actor, Californian actor, okay, who had a change of career. Suppose some say successful, some regret. Anyway, so the gentleman hated taxes, but he also hated the Soviet Union, an entity that existed in my days. I don't know if you remember. Okay, so he had this obsessive disorder with the Soviet Union that made him want to spend a lot of money trying to destroy that state, all right? So he cut taxes, he cut expenditure, but he funded DARPA. DARPA is a unit of the Pentagon that is well known now for inventing what?
Internet.
The Internet. And the Internet, thanks to which, thanks to the Internet I'm here, thanks to the Internet you have Bangalore, thanks to the Internet you have Delhi, you have a lot of things, right? So, but his intention was not to help Bangalore become a big technological center. That was not on his mind. On his mind, he wanted just to destroy the Russians. That's it. That was his desire in life, his aim in life, and those other, auxiliary things coming with it. So, he spent all this money trying, to destroy the Russians. And of course, the first thing it did is help Russian persons with social difficulties find a spouse, and chat rooms. That was not his intention. So I realized what technology is very hard to predict. It's mostly dominated by these unexpected implementations that you don't see coming. And the problem is that you can't predict them, and if you cannot predict them, you can't predict history. So it's so hard to predict history if even those who invent tools don't know what to do with them. Okay? So, we live in less charted world. It's not a problem if you know it. If you don't know it, you got a problem. All right. Which brings me to that black swan, that ugly bird. Okay? Incidentally, let me show you a picture. A lady attended one of my lectures in San Francisco, and she opened a black swan boutique. I don't know if she's still in business. She expect the unexpected, rare fragrances. All right, that's not my idea of the black swan. All right, my idea of the black swan is actually the black swan is nothing modern. The Romans had an expression, rara avis, in other words, something as rare as a black swan. There's a verse by Juvenal that says a good man is as rare as a black swan. Actually, it's a good spouse, he said. I don't want to enter difficulties. Okay, and so the metaphor was used something to describe near impossibility or impossibility, something like George Bush getting the Nobel Prize in physics, something like that. Okay, so that would be a black swan. And it has, and I sort of like packaged my ideas using that format of the black swan by changing the story a little bit. It's not, a logical problem. No matter how many white swan you've seen, it doesn't tell you anything about the possibility or impossibility of a black swan. I use it differently. I define a black swan event as an event that, unlike the bird, it doesn't have feathers. It has consequences. Okay, an event of massive consequences when it happens. Low probability, like George Bush getting the Nobel Prize in physics, according to an observer. And of course, its most vicious property is that ahead of the event is prospectively hard to predict, like the Internet, like the wheel, like all these things. But after the fact, every single person finds it obvious, and of course, they saw it coming. You can see that this is why there's something called the economics profession. We have close to 1 million economists, or people who call themselves economists on the planet. Only a handful predicted the extent of what could have happened. And of course, after the fact, you have people like Joe Stiglitz or Krugman who, of course, saw it coming. Right? After the fact, it's very easy. You remember thoughts in a shower you had that vaguely related to what happened. Okay, so prospectively unpredictable, retrospectively very predictable.